Number 10. Ninja Assassin Fighting Skills. Though she uses her telekinetic abilities a lot in a fight, and I mean a lot, Betsy doesn't need to rely on them to beat someone in hand-to-hand combat. Her skills as a ninja assassin have been reinforced on a few different occasions. At one point she was trained by the hand, but she also inhabited the body and, for a while, kind of the mind of Quanon, a skilled ninja assassin, whose body she swapped with in a controversial and pretty ridiculous storyline, and who also seemed to have purple hair, possibly even natural purple hair, as opposed to Betsy's original's body's dyed purple hair. Betsy also became such a skilled assassin that she even admitted during her time on Cable's X-Force that she was addicted to killing. So, you know, she's like a super assassin. Anyways, she tries not to kill people anymore. Number 9. Telepathic Link and Twin Bond. This power feels like it's almost based off of folklore. Betsy and her twin brother Brian share a unique connection. They have a strong telepathic link to one another. This link has actually helped the twins to sense when the other is in danger and rush to their side to help them. People have often believed that the time shared in the womb actually allows twins in the real world to share an almost psychic link to one another, sensing one another's emotions or physical states, even while separated. Studies have even actually been conducted on this subject, and while I don't think it makes a lot of sense scientifically speaking, I know that my twin sisters have experienced some pretty freaky twin telepathy moments, so maybe there's a real world thing to this, I don't know guys. Beyond being linked to her brother, Psylocke has the capacity to be linked with just about anyone. When her mutant powers actually surfaced, she found herself instantly and overwhelmingly telepathically connected to millions of people, not having much control over her powers just yet. This caused her much grief initially, though it has proved a useful power throughout her development. Number 8. She's a spy. Psylocke is a master of shadows for many reasons, one including her prowess as a spy. She worked as a spy agent on the Psi division of Strike, the special tactical reserve for international key emergencies. Well, for a time. An oddly, conveniently cool acronym for what was basically MI6 with a wider net. During her time working as a Psi agent for Strike, she would plot to infiltrate the Hellfire Club. She worked on the Strike Force undercover, with her cover life being that of a working fashion model, pun intended. This was also the time we saw Betsy make a dramatic change to her hair. Up until this point it always matched her twin brother Brian, aka Captain Britain's blonde color, but she would then start dyeing it purple and never look back. Her purple hair has since become an iconic part of her look. Number 7. Telepathic Resistance. The weird thing about this power is that it never seems to be fully explained. Some mutants train to get this and others just seem to possess a natural resistance to telepathy. Beast appears to fall more into the second category, cause you know, you can't be an X-Men unless you have some level of telepathic resistance. However, Beast's resistance to telepathy is kind of dumb because, well, he's not that great at it. It basically just means he is not openly vulnerable to telepathic influence, but when up against a powerful or potent telepath, or if someone can use his fears, like Cassandra Nova did against Beast, his resistance quickly breaks down. So this power is kind of a dumb one because it's just, well, it's not that useful. And after all, the X-Men are more often dealing with powerful telepaths than low-level ones, so. Number 6. Force Fields. Beyond having the physical and tactical skills to take down an opponent, Psylocke can also guard against physical attacks when she wants to, and even shield herself from things like magical explosions or fire. Using her telekinesis ability, she can construct a force field around herself and others to protect from incoming attacks. It isn't an effortless ability, however, as it does require a lot of mental strength and focus on her part.
Number 5. Acute senses. Okay, you know about the senses, but did you know how precisely acute they are? This goes beyond being able to follow a scent, and instead dives into the realm of she can tell individualized things about a person from their scent. For example, if they have high cholesterol. And she can do this for hours afterwards, long after other creatures would have lost the scent. This of course makes her a super dangerous opponent if you're trying to hide from her, because you have to do so much more masking than just dousing yourself in Axe cologne. I covered myself in cologne, she'll never find me because I smell sauvage.
Number 4. Magic Immunity. After Jamie Braddock resurrected Psylocke, she was brought back with some different abilities. While she no longer had her shadow teleportation power, she found she was now immune to telepathic or telekinetic interference, and Jamie even insisted that she had a resistance to magic, specifically reality-altering magic. He apparently had made sure she was brought back with these resistances, as he needed her in order to defeat the Forsaken. Number 3. Secondary Mutation. This is apparently the power and ability that we have to blame, which has caused Hank so many changes over the years. He developed a secondary mutation as a result of consuming his serum, which he sought to protect from being stolen, and this caused him to mutate more, and caused him to enhance his mutation permanently. Long term, it is suspected that this has continued to affect the evolution of his mutation, causing him actually to also continue to change and awakening within Hank recessive genes in his DNA, which have caused him to revert to a more animal-like appearance. He's like a two-way evolution, embodying the strengths of those we evolved from and the advancements of the modern man, shown by his advanced intellect. This becomes in and of itself a little bit silly, though, when you realize that it means he went from ape to cat because of this. So I guess who knows where to next, because I would think, you know, maybe cat then ape. Ape is like all the way at the back, right? I don't know. Someone that studied evolution, let us know in the comments. Number 2. Flight. You may know of Psylocke's famous butterfly aura that surrounds her eyes and face while using her telekinetic abilities. Likewise, she can also use her telekinesis to give herself metaphorical wings and allow her to take flight, though she is also sometimes pictured with that neon pink butterfly wing-like aura on her back while soaring around. So sometimes it does actually look like she has wings, telekinetic wings, which is also kind of fitting considering how romantically close she and fellow X-Men Angel have been over the years. This seems to be an ability that writers sometimes also forget about though, so she doesn't use it that frequently. You can see her take flight in the Uncanny X-Men series from 2016, volume number 4, if you want to see that, which I mean, who doesn't want to see Psylocke fly? It's super cool. Number 1. Invisibility. When you think of Psylocke, you may think of her stealth abilities. She is a spy, a ninja, an assassin, and has been known to shadow teleport. But what you might not think about when it comes to her stealth is her power of invisibility. Yes, she can turn invisible. This power comes from her telekinesis skills. Although it's not often seen, she has used it before in the comics. This, combined with her astral projection abilities, makes her an even more stealthy mutant than you might initially suspect, though as we've seen, it doesn't do anything when it comes to cloaking her from Mr. Fantastic. Unsurprisingly, trying to use invisibility powers to sneak up on a man who is married to the Invisible Woman is really, well, not the most effective way to use that ability. I'm sneaking, and Reed Richards is like, I know you're here. I'm used to invisible people, it's kind of my thing. Number 10. Temperature resistance. The crazy thing about this power isn't so much that it exists, but that it appears to have always existed. Even before Beast had his iconic fur, he was resistant to cold. A fur coat makes sense for this, but his randomly being cold resistant doesn't really make a ton of sense without it. Although this is also back when Beast had an insane healing factor and could heal from almost any injury, similar to Wolverine or Deadpool. A temperature resistance makes sense for a furry character who would be insulated, or even a character who I guess is known for their endurance. However, the weird carryover of this power as Beast has changed over the time, from having a healing factor to a blue fur coat, is just kinda strange. Number 9. Magic. In the 2016 series of All New X-Men, we see Hank turn from scientific pursuits to those of a more magical variety. What makes this fairly silly is his sort of resentment and disbelief surrounding magic, as he specifically attempts to use magics himself. It was a weird exploration of his character when writers decided to incorporate a bit of magic into his world, as Hank has always been known as a man of books, and maybe of fantasy in a more romantic or literary sense, but certainly not in a magical superpower sense, so... Number 8. Handy feet. One of the powers that I have always found to be both silly and useful is Beast's enhanced dexterity. He can use this skill in combat to turn himself into a skilled acrobat, dodging blows, stealthily leaping across rooms, gracefully landing where he is needed, and helping in the fray to defeat the enemy. But he can also use this skill to perform mental tasks with his feet. Why? Well, usually because he's busy reading. He's used his feet to type, pour liquids out of beakers, and even once used them alone to fight as he was trying to read during the instigation. How one could truly focus on both, I can't even comprehend. I guess because of his enhanced intellect? Or maybe he was just like me when I try to multitask while reading, and he's just like stuck reading the same sentence over and over and over without it sinking in. But maybe he just didn't want to admit that. So it looks like he's reading, but really he's just reading the same sentence.
Number 7. Toe claws. So while X-23 has 2 bone claws that emerge from her hands, she also has another that emerges from the front of her toes, just in between. And these were coated in adamantium. This toe claw could prove very useful, and does. Who's expecting an attack from that low down? Very few people. Also, one good slice of the Achilles tendon and that's it. Crippled for life. It makes kicks all the more deadly too. And you can get so much power behind your leg. Listen to me, I'm really pushing for this toe claw.
Number 6. Giant hands and feet. Originally, Beast started out as a normal-ish looking man, simply having large hands and feet, which he was ridiculed for in school, so I guess it's not completely normal. Visibly, this appeared to be the only super thing about him. Granted, he was also super strong, super agile, and speedy at the time as well. He also had that advanced intellect that we love. But while looking mostly normal, this weird feature that seemed to come along with his mutation and powers was an odd one. Namely because other mutants with similar enhancements to speed and strength and agility don't really seem to share it. They don't really have like large hands or large feet. I know not all mutants are the same, trust me, do I know that, but still, it was a weird trait to give Beast, especially when you would expect someone with large hands and feet to be, more clumsy than dexterous. Yet Marvel decided to go the opposite way with it. Number 5. Psionic Blasts. In a fight against Archangel, Psylocke used this newfound power to knock him out. Her psionic blasts can be deadly actually, despite the fact that they don't really inflict physical damage. Instead, these blasts attack Psylocke's opponents mentally, though they can still inflict mental pain. Psylocke is also capable of wielding the psionic energy on such a level that she could create an explosion. Psionic explosions! Number 4. Minor pheromone manipulation. Sometimes heroes have powers that we really get to see in action, and these are the powers that always blow me away. For Hank, one such power is his ability to secrete pheromones which make members of the opposite sex become attracted to him. While it has been mentioned in a copy of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe X-Men edition from 2004, we have yet to see Hank really utilize it. He has had a fairly active love life, and Abigail Brand, who has been a longtime love of his, has even expressed an interest in starting a family. But it's more likely that it is simply Beast's personality and soft blue fur that have caused women to just fall for him, not his use of pheromone power. Unless there's something we don't know, and Beast is maybe just like a master manipulator. He's just secreting pheromones all the time and that's why it all happens. Oh my goodness. I'm not ready for that revelation. It'd be weird.
Number 3. Weapon Hex. Weapon Hex is the version of Laura Kinney that is an amalgamation of her and the Scarlet Witch, though the character retains her name and most of her backstory. What is largely changed is that she's meant to be the perfect vessel for the occult, and her powers have a magical slant to them as well. That's the Wanda in her. So Hex 23 is from Warp World, the world created when Gamora, wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, folded the realm of the Soul Gem in half, where she was keeping the character's souls. Weapon Hex was one of the characters who decided to stay mashed together when the amalgamation of their universe was revealed, and Weapon Hex even went on to become part of the Defenders team.
Number 2. Claws and Fangs. This addition to Beast's physique definitely makes sense as it came with the change of his appearance into a more beast-like and ape-like state, but it's still, it's kinda ridiculous, mostly because Beast doesn't really use either of these things. The juxtaposition of his calm and curious nature with his beast-like physique and features makes a lot of Beast-related powers and assets feel kind of misplaced, or I guess just wasted, because he doesn't really like to connect with them or utilize them that much. The same can be said about his long claws and features, which typically end up as just ornamental and used by writers to make Beast feel like even more of an outcast than he already does. Which is sad. I want him to just feel good about his appearance. I guess sometimes he does, but sometimes he doesn't. And he wants to cure himself, and I'm like, no, I'm conflicted. Number 1. Animal Instinct. Hank might view this trait as a weakness, oddly enough, but I would argue that it's not a weakness because it makes him stronger. It makes him do things he would not normally think to do. It makes him hesitate less. He would likely be able to apprehend more villains than not, catching them off guard with his sheer strength and speed and focus. He also might kill them, but they'd be stopped at least. But Hank fears his animal side, which alienates him from it and causes any instincts he taps into to be rebuked as opposed to embraced. Really, I think he just needs to take a page out of Wolverine's book, tap into his instincts, and let go a little bit more. Facing his fears would only make him stronger, I think, and eventually give him more control over a power that could be better utilized.
Number 10. Reattach limbs. Now, one of the powers Wolverine, and hence his clone, is most known for is the healing factor. This healing factor is meant to render them potentially immortal, but in the case of X-23 it also means that she can reattach limbs. They will rebond and perform as good as new. Certainly a useful trick, definitely faster than waiting for them to grow back, and less gross, although you can make that funny. Just look at Deadpool. Still, it says a lot that in her short life X-23 has already suffered such brutal injuries that this is a known fact. Sad times. Number 9, as mentioned, immortality. Now, one of the perks of an out-of-control healing factor, with perks being placed in quotation marks, is the potential to live forever. There's something about your cells constantly healing that allows you to not have to age in the same way others do. Instead of your cells decaying, you're just producing perfect copies. Because of this, you get the joy of living past all your friends and family and watching the inevitable march of time and potential destruction of all. At least in the Marvel Universe, you won't have to do it alone. Heck, Laura will even be able to do it with a couple of people that she actually likes, like a little vampire coven, only with mutants. Which hero would you want to spend eternity with? I mean, if any. Eternity is a long time. Number 8, Gabby Kinney, aka Gabrielle Kinney, aka Honey Badger, aka Scout. Now, she is another of Wolverine's clones, and as such in a way a sister to X-23, but she showcases some of the powers Laura could have had things gone just a little bit differently. For example, Gabby has an insensitivity to pain. This was a result of further genetic experimentation on the part of Alchemax, and it's made her quite the dangerous little creature. A lot of barriers and restrictions are removed if one can't feel pain. There is an actual condition where people can't feel pain, and it's really dangerous. This is because you can get pretty badly hurt and not even know it. It also removes some of that innate fear factor that you know is necessary for our survival.
Number 7, astral projection. Using her telepathy, Psylocke can project her astral form, allowing her to explore the astral or physical plane outside of her body. While in the astral plane, she can use her abilities to alter the environment around her, and even create psionic weapons, much like she can while inhabiting her body on the physical plane. There was even a time when she was undetectable in her astral form. That being said, she can easily be harmed while in her astral form when facing those who are stronger than her, like in Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 when she went up against Mr. Sinister.
Number 6, poison immunity. Now, some of you may be saying, yes, we know about the healing factor. Fair enough. But the degree to which X-23 is immune to poisons is truly impressive. We're not talking you give her poison, she's felled, and needs to wait it out as her healing factor slowly cures her. No, we're talking it takes a massive dose in the first place to even have any effect at all. She's just operating at such an enhanced capacity that what would affect an average person won't affect her at all. Definitely useful as a being created as a living weapon, but also just for anybody. That would be a relief. I mean, for those of you who are really concerned about being poisoned.
Number 5, doesn't need to sleep. Apparently, having his form change from ape-like to more feline-like not only stole a digit from Beast's hands, but also changed his sleeping patterns. He mentions this during Astonishing X-Men Volume 1, Issue 25. The issue starts off with Beast singing, and we follow him until he runs into Xavier Institute student Armor, aka Hisako Ichiki. She reminds him of her threat to shave Japanese obscenities into his fur while he sleeps if she caught him singing again, which obviously she has. Hank answers the threat by sharing with Hisako that he no longer really needs more than 2 hours of sleep a night. What? This might be a useful one for being pulled into a fight in the middle of the night or needing to keep watch, but it also just seems like such a random superpower to have as a byproduct of an outward change of physical appearance. Yeah, that's right, Beast micronaps apparently. He's got some small sleeping skills. Strange. Especially considering many cats that I've interacted with seem to be pretty sleepy creatures, so this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Number 4, the VENOMVERSE. Like pretty much every character, Laura Kinney was featured in the Edge of the Venomverse event, and stood out for some because of just how cool and intense her venomized Wolverine costume was. Fun fact, in the main verse when Wolverine died during the time we were pretending he was gone for good, Laura took up his mantle to honor him. And it was a legacy passing of the torch that some people really enjoyed, and are salty about how now she's gone back to being X-23. Some claim that it's being bumped back. Some even say that her name is a slave name. It gets intense out there sometimes. Now, unlike some characters who were essentially window dressing in the Venomverse, X-23 had a whole story arc. This involved a new origin where she managed to escape captivity thanks to bonding with the Venom symbiote, and as a result had a pretty good relationship with it. We got to see this in Edge of the Venomverse number 1, and for some it was an excellent primer for what was to come.
Number 3, Pilot. While it might not be as interesting as some of her other professions and power sets based around being a spy and, a ninja, way before any of that happened, back in the original Captain Britain Volume 1, Betsy was known for her skills as a pilot. Truth be told, we never really got to see said skills, but they were acknowledged by her brother Brian Braddock. Betsy seemed more to downplay them, and then while flying, a light kinda hit her and caused her to hallucinate, and then she crashed. Not really her fault, but it didn't really add any hype to this ability. Still, based on what Brian said in issue 8 of Volume 1, we can't assume that Betsy was an accomplished charter pilot. Just never really got to see a lot of it.
Number 2, her training. Now when it comes to X-23, most think of her mutant abilities, but she is also highly intelligent. She has been trained to infiltrate with ease. It was for these reasons that she was trained as an acrobat, trained to speak multiple languages and master martial arts. All of this she can do because she has a far above average intellect. So she's more than just a ball of rage, far more. And number 1, Enigma Force, aka the Unipower, aka Captain Universe. Yes, X-23 got the powers of Captain Universe. I mean, that entity is down for whoever will bond with it, really. At first, Laura was reluctant to take on the Unipower, but she eventually did, and like most people with those powers, they get a sweet Captain Universe style costume upgrade, and they get to wield the power cosmic. While possessing the Enigma Force, one is essentially a god. The Unipower was interested in her because it wanted to make use of her healing ability. Their time together was brief, but for some fans, pretty memorable.